In this video, I want to talk about cornering and specifically traction. I know it's a big issue riding motorcycles, and it came up with me recently with the loss of Mr. Sharp. He's the individual that I posted about who lost control of his bike on the Dragon over the course of the past couple of days. And he was an experienced rider, is my understanding. I don't know exactly the particulars of what happened, but can imagine traction and cornering had something to do with it and him potentially losing control of his bike. And so I wanted to look up and provide some tips on cornering and traction. Some of this will be getting rid of some of those myths and things that people oftentimes are concerned about that I think get into your head that can have you lose confidence in cornering. And we'll get to those in a minute. But first, let's just talk about traction in general. Obviously, is the amount of road that your tire, in essence, absorbs. Your tire's rubber. And if you notice on the road, if you run your hand over it, the road's not smooth. It's got bumps and grooves and things like that. And that's on purpose so your rubber can lock in with the road. So the question becomes, how much traction do you really get, and what's the correct amount when you're cornering? Now, obviously, there's a ton of factors that come into it, such as the difference in the road will give you more or less traction. Raining versus dry will give you more or less traction. How much air pressure you have in your tire, the age of your tire, the condition of it, etc., etc., etc. So we know those things in general, but specifically, what are the angles and those sorts of things that you should and shouldn't take to give yourself enough traction? Well, in America, the standard for traction is 1 to 1.1 G's of lateral force. If you get to that level, you should be okay. If you get above that, then you're going to be losing a lot of traction and you can lose control of your bike. So depending on what type of bike you ride also depends on exactly the angle. But in essence, 45 degrees generally, okay, of lateral force. So if you're turning that bike 45 degrees, you're putting about 1 G of lateral force on those tires. So you're right at the limit if you're at a 45 degree angle. Now on a lot of bikes like Harleys and things like that, once you get to about 32 to 35 degrees, you're hitting metal on the road. And part of that's on purpose, especially if you have the highway bars and those sorts of things, is to keep you from over tilting your motorcycles so you're getting above about a 45 degree angle. Because obviously if 45 is hitting you right at that 1 G, you don't want to go much more than a 45 degree angle or you're going to lose a ton of traction and you're going to lose control of that bike. So the angle is a big important factor. A couple of others, more so on the myths and things that people think have you lose traction that really don't. Speed. Believe it or not, speed does not have that much to do with traction. So how fast you are going is not really going to provide you more or less traction. So speed alone is not going to be a big factor. Another one is rain. Now here's an interesting fact that I found for you guys. Rain is one of those mental things more than anything else from what I've seen and read in manuals and otherwise. In the first about 10 to 15 minutes is the worst part of rain for traction. Why? Because in the first 10 to 15 minutes, they say that's when all of the debris, the grease, all those things will come to the surface and make things slicker. So not really as much about traction when it comes to the angling and things like that, but just your ordinary traction, even if you're upright, not going into a corner. So the first 10 to 15 minutes are the most dangerous when it comes to rain. After that, rain has very little to do with traction. From what I had read is in rain, you're probably going to drop to about a 0.9 if you're at your standard angle. So if you're going around a corner in the rain, it's been raining for a while, you're not losing as much traction as you mentally think you are. So that's a big point. Another one that I had written down was different ways that you can mess up traction. So we're talking about user error, basically, that can mess with the amount of traction that you have. So the first one that I had written down was grabbing the brakes when you're in a turn. As most of you have seen and heard and have been taught, if you've taken the courses, you don't want to grab those brakes. It's instinct. Grab those front brakes and slam them on hard. That is not what you want to do. You're going to lose a ton of traction. I may do a separate video just on that at some point, but you don't want to grab those brakes. They teach you in the courses that you want to brake in advance of the turn. You want to slow down a little bit, brake in advance before you enter your turn and start the tilt. Another one is chopping the throttle, obviously, is a big issue. And then you got your standard ones. It's maintaining your tires. If they're too old, got to replace them. Not keeping proper tire pressure, those sorts of things. Believe it or not, weight is not a huge issue. If anything, the more weight, the better the traction. It expands your tire and it's going to give you better grip on the road. So again, unfortunately, this video came up to give you guys some quick reminders and advice if you're a new motorcycle rider because of the gentleman that we lost this past week here in North Georgia. So please be safe out there. Be careful on these corners. Study up again. Remind yourself, no matter how long you've been riding out there, it's always good to refresh on some of these particulars. So when you're out there the next time and you're facing rain or something else, you are not going to lose control of your bike when you're cornering. I hope this video was helpful. Respond, give me some comments, tell me anything that you have to say about cornering that can help other group members. Thanks for watching this video, and keep it up, keep commenting, keep sharing your information with your fellow group members. We all can help each other stay safe out there.